On June 2nd, 2007, an 18-year-old girl visited a Target store with the intention of purchasing a gift for her boyfriend to celebrate their 6-month relationship anniversary. Little did she know, someone was watching her every move, waiting for the right moment. Before we begin, please leave a comment letting us know which city you are from. Perhaps the next episode will be about a crime in your area. This is the case of Kelsey Ann Smith, born on May 3rd, 1989, in Overland Park, Kansas. Her parents were Greg and Missy Smith. Kelsey grew up as the middle child of 5 in her family. Limited information is available about her childhood, but she was known for her energy, kindness, and nurturing nature. When relatives lost pets, Kelsey would create drawings to comfort them. At the age of 4, she developed a strong preference for the color blue, wearing it daily, which earned her the nickname Blueberry from her mother's friend. After the birth of her younger brother in 1995, 6-year-old Kelsey displayed extraordinary care and a desire to independently look after him. Throughout her childhood, she ensured her siblings received treats at the same time she did. She possessed a talent for turning strangers into friends, a skill that grew stronger each year. In the fall of 2003, 14-year-old Kelsey enrolled at Shawnee Mission West High School. It was here that she began shaping her identity as a strong, gifted, and respected individual. During her studies, she played the clarinet in the school orchestra, participated in choir and theater, and attended art and creative writing classes. In 2004, during her sophomore year, 15-year-old Kelsey was described as someone who could enter a room of strangers and leave with new friends. Around this time, her love for animals intensified. At 16 years old, in 2005, Kelsey continued her active involvement in choir, orchestra, and theater productions. That year, Kelsey had a habit of surprising friends with balloons on their birthdays. She also prepared a solo choir performance, keeping it secret from her parents until the last moment. Her father, Greg, recalled how she struggled to contain her excitement before the performance. During this period, Kelsey began planning to attend Kansas State University to study veterinary medicine and join the university orchestra. In August 2006, 17-year-old Kelsey began her senior year of high school. She maintained all her previous activities and approached challenges fearlessly. She was described as a determined individual who tackled tasks head-on whenever others doubted her abilities. In late 2006, a significant event occurred in Kelsey's personal life. She met John Smith, a boy her age. They likely met at school or an event, and feelings quickly developed between them. In an interview with Fox News, John described Kelsey as perfect for him, cherishing every moment they spent together. The couple discussed their future, career plans, college, marriage, children, and growing old together. Both aimed to attend the same university, and their relationship appeared harmonious. Despite the short duration of their relationship, they planned to deepen it. Among their conversations was even the topic of death. Kelsey expressed her wish for people to celebrate her life rather than mourn her passing. Over the following months, the couple remained together, and Kelsey's parents began to see John as part of the family. On May 3rd, 2007, Kelsey turned 18, and on May 24th, she graduated from Shawnee Mission West High School. The event was significant for her, her parents, friends, and John. However, tragedy struck 9 days later. On June 2nd, 2007, John and Kelsey planned to celebrate their 6-month anniversary. Their schedule included a poolside party, dinner, and exchanging gifts. John prepared to give Kelsey a promise ring, while she intended to create a photo album for him. Around 6:30 in the evening, Kelsey left for Target in her 1987 Buick Regal to buy the album. Before leaving home, she told her family she would return shortly, as she only needed to make a quick stop at the store. According to surveillance footage, Kelsey arrived at Target shortly after 7 o'clock in the evening and searched for a photo album. While in the store, she called her mother, Missy, likely to confirm her arrival and discuss the purchase. After completing her transaction, she left Target. The subsequent events took a horrifying turn. Around 8 o'clock that evening, Kelsey's parents and John, who had arrived at their home, grew concerned when she failed to return. She did not answer phone calls, and her absence was uncharacteristic as the celebration was set to begin at 8. The Smith family and John repeatedly tried to contact Kelsey without success. Their anxiety escalated, and they realized the severity of the situation. They later drove to Target, where Kelsey had last been seen, but her car was not there. They then went to a nearby Macy's, where they found Kelsey's abandoned vehicle with all her belongings inside. Their worst fears were confirmed. Something terrible had happened. By 11 o'clock that night, police launched an investigation, classifying the case as a missing persons report. The following day, June 3rd, between midnight and 2 in the morning, law enforcement surrounded the Target parking lot and reviewed surveillance footage. Their findings were devastating. The video recordings revealed a horrifying scene. Kelsey entering the store, shopping, calling her mother, selecting an album, and then leaving. However, the most alarming element was an unknown man who was deliberately following her. He was in the same departments as the girl, pretending to browse the merchandise, and then quickly disappearing to follow her. The cameras captured the moment of the attack. The man caught up with Kelsey and forcibly pulled her into his vehicle. This discovery instantly transformed the missing persons case into an abduction investigation. By 8 o'clock in the morning, the police had issued a missing persons alert that included a detailed description of 18-year-old Kelsey, a light-haired girl, 5 feet 5 inches tall, last seen at Target. Law enforcement requested location data for the victim's phone from the mobile carrier Verizon. However, the company delayed providing the information due to privacy policies, significantly hindering the investigation. This situation would later lead to changes in legislation, which will be mentioned later. Around noon on June 3rd, a large search operation named Kelsey's Army was organized, involving officers, relatives, friends, and volunteers. Hundreds of people meticulously searched the area of her disappearance, distributed flyers, and scoured wooded areas, parks, roads, and commercial establishments. Unfortunately, that day did not yield any significant results. On June 4, 2007, the police continued their search efforts and conducted an in-depth analysis of the surveillance recordings. They managed to obtain a fairly clear image of the suspect, but it was decided to withhold its public release to avoid premature exposure. That day, the search area was significantly expanded, and around 6 o'clock in the evening, law enforcement intensified pressure on Verizon to provide Kelsey's phone records as the delay continued. The day ended without any substantial findings. On June 5, 2007, the search operation grew even larger while waiting for data from the mobile carrier. Investigators continued to interview potential witnesses from Target and Macy's, receiving some leads, none of which, however, proved decisive. The investigation team decided to release the surveillance footage through local television channels, which later led to an important testimony that will be discussed in detail. Additionally, considering the potential interstate nature of the crime, the police reached out to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. More than 500 volunteers continued the search throughout the day, but to no avail. A turning point came on Wednesday, June 6, 2007, when Verizon finally provided Kelsey's mobile phone records after a 4-day delay. By this time, the family and police had engaged legal support. A technical specialist accurately pinpointed the last signal from the phone, 1.8 miles north of a tower near Longview Lake in Grandview, Missouri. Although a total of 4 signals had been recorded, this information directed the search efforts to the specified area. Only 45 minutes after receiving the new data did the police discover Kelsey's body in a wooded area near Longview Lake. She was lying face down under some brush, and the cause of death was determined to be strangulation. The crime scene was immediately secured for forensic examination, which, along with information from a neighbor of the suspect, surveillance recordings, and DNA test results allowed for the identification of the perpetrator. Between 6 and 8 o'clock in the evening on June 6th, law enforcement arrested the suspect at his home in Olathe, Kansas, from where he was promptly taken to jail. This raises the question of the identity of the attacker. An astonishing fact was that the criminal was entirely unknown to Kelsey, her relatives, and her friends. It was a random attack committed by Edwin Roy Hall, a 26-year-old married man and father of a 4-year-old boy. Biographical information about Edwin is limited, but certain facts are known. From his birth in 1980 to around the age of 6 or 7, he lived with his biological family, where he suffered sexual abuse from an uncle for an extended period. He also suffered from diabetes and required medication. Around 1987, when Edwin was 7 years old, he was removed from his biological family and adopted by Carol and Don Hall. The specific circumstances of the removal are not disclosed, but this fact became pivotal in his life. Carol and Don, who were already raising 3 biological daughters, believed that their love and support would help the boy overcome his traumatic past. The decision to adopt was made by the couple after reading a newspaper article about children available for adoption through the Kansas Department of Social and Rehabilitation Services. They felt they could positively impact someone's life, having experience in raising children and a desire to expand their family. However, immediately after the adoption, Carol and Don noticed behavioral issues with Edwin, which they attributed to his traumatic experiences. The boy displayed defiance both at home and at school, despite all effort from his adoptive parents to surround him with care and attention. No measures led to improvement. Dysfunctional behavior escalated throughout his teenage years until the situation reached a critical point. On December 2nd, 1994, when Edwin was 14, a juvenile court charged him with temporary unlawful possession of a 1984 Chevrolet. On June 23, 2005, Edwin was charged with stealing 2 accounts, $25 in cash, and a microcassette recorder, all classified as misdemeanors. In response to the 3 charges, he was required to complete 100 hours of community service and attend a law education program. A year later, on May 14, 1996, nearly 8 years after his adoption, 15-year-old Edwin threatened his adoptive sister with a knife. Immediately following this incident, Carol and Don removed him from the family home and placed him, presumably, in a specialized facility or another foster family. He was charged with assault for this act. His adoptive parents realized he posed a threat to the family and potentially to others. Edwin was removed from his environment, and it turned out to be beneficial for him. By July 1996, he was already in his 3rd juvenile facility. On April 25, 1997, he escaped from one of these facilities, which led to a warrant for his arrest, but he later voluntarily returned. On March 9, 1999, Edwin turned 18 and was released on probation from the Juvenile Detention Center. He was officially released on June 30th of that same year. By September 23rd, he was charged with a shooting that struck a residence and 2 vehicles. What exactly happened afterward is hard to say. Between 2000 and 2003, Edwin married a woman named Aletta. The exact details of their meeting are unknown, but according to a blog post on M002, they both had pages on MySpace. On his page, Edwin mentioned Jack, and someone commented to Aletta, "You know Jack longer than your brother? Maybe you two are meant to be together. LOL, love you." It is unclear how long they had known each other before this, but it was quite a while. In 2003, the couple had a son, and later the family settled in Aletta, Kansas. Edwin became known as a friendly neighbor who could fix trucks and was generally considered a normal, good person. Harold, one of the neighbors, noted that Edwin loved his son very much and was a family man. Another neighbor, Sorrel, simply said that Edwin was a good young family man and that there was nothing unusual about him. This is how he appeared to those around him, but in reality, he hid a dark side to his nature. On April 4th, 2002, his adoptive brother Jonas sued him for an incident that occurred several years prior. When Edwin was 14 and Jonas was 11, Edwin struck his brother in the head with a baseball bat with such force that it resulted in Jonas being hospitalized. Since then, Jonas had suffered from severe headaches. The case was settled out of court, but it remains indicative. More about Edwin could be learned from his MySpace profile. He again used the alias Jack, which was his common nickname not only online, but also among neighbors and friends. In his description, he referred to himself as a sweet, restless soul. His favorite movies were those that went beyond the ordinary, including A Clockwork Orange, Strangeland, and horror films. A Clockwork Orange tells the story of a boy who is a gang member and commits horrific crimes, while Strangeland is about a killer who lures young girls through the internet. Edwin also mentioned the alias Captain Howdy. In his profile, he stated that he worked as a carpenter dealing with sales, design, and other aspects related to doors, windows, and similar products. He named Batman and his father, an abusive figure, as his heroes. His interests raised alarm. He claimed to love eating small children and harming animals, and it seemed this was not a joke. Edwin also mentioned that he was passionate about photography, painting, and once dreamed of having his own company, which he never realized. In his description, he wrote, "Everything is never what it seems until you look inside the book, and those people you look at are not as cool as they think." He also mentioned that he loved reading and drawing, although he lacked the time for it, and that fast cars were great, hoping to own one someday. He last logged into MySpace on June 6th, 2007. Edwin also had a Yahoo account, where his description contained even more troubling details. He referred to himself as Dr. Giggles, a reference to a film about a brutal killer. He listed his location as your closet or his house, and his profession as serial killer. His hobby, according to him, was consuming human flesh. He warned to stay away from Captain Howdy, which was his username taken from the film Strangeland. His favorite quote was, "All of life's problems are a direct result of a lack of bodily pain." Another important fact is that a woman named Ivorette from Des Moines, Iowa, reported that Edwin briefly dated her teenage daughter. Later, the daughter broke up with him after he confessed that he was married and had a 2-year-old child. Iva also noted that Edwin met her daughter at a mall, where he claimed to be living in a motel. The daughter recounted that Edwin practiced paganism and had drawings on this theme done in silver ink on black paper. This indicates that he was willing to betray his wife and had connections with much younger girls. To most people, Edwin appeared to be an ordinary individual, but in reality, he harbored dark secrets, including the fact that he was a dangerous predator. On June 2nd, 2007, Edwin spent the morning with his wife and 4-year-old son. In the afternoon, he left home in his pickup truck. Initially, he stopped at a Mexican restaurant where he ate but left without paying. He then headed to the Dillard Mall. Around 6 o'clock, he exited the mall, drove to the Target store, and parked in their lot. Edwin had with him an airsoft rifle, which he claimed to be carrying by chance, but this was intentional, as he clearly intended to use it. He sat in the parking lot, waiting for a victim. Around 7:08, he saw Kelsey Smith arrive in her 1987 Buick Regal. Edwin noticed her beautiful legs and youthful appearance and began to watch her. When Kelsey entered the store, Edwin followed her, leaving the gun in his vehicle. He tracked her through the store, keeping his distance, and then decided to act. He exited the store, returned to his pickup, grabbed the gun, and re-entered Target, where he found Kelsey. He stayed close to her and then exited the store, hiding by his vehicle to wait for her. Around 7:20, Edwin saw Kelsey leave the store and head toward her car. That was when he acted. At 7:21, he approached her from behind, forced her into her own vehicle at gunpoint. A struggle ensued between them, but Edwin prevailed, using the gun. He got behind the wheel of the Buick Regal and drove away. Kelsey was unaware that the gun was fake. Edwin drove her approximately 20 miles to a wooded area near Longview Lake in Grandview, Missouri. The trip took about 25 to 30 minutes. Around 8 o'clock, he forced Kelsey out of the car and into the woods. There, he assaulted her and then strangled her to death using her belt. Afterward, he covered her body with branches and left the crime scene. Edwin returned Kelsey's car to the area where Target was located and parked it across the street near Macy's to complicate the search efforts. He wiped down the vehicle but left fingerprints in several places, which later became evidence against him. Around 9 o'clock, he returned to the Target parking lot, took his pickup, and drove home, arriving around 9:30. He attempted to act as if nothing had happened, and this continued for several days until he was arrested. Kelsey Smith, the 18-year-old victim, was found dead. Edwin, the 26-year-old suspect, was arrested, and his bail was set at $5 million. His arraignment was expected that same day at 2:30. Investigators stated that there was no evidence that Edwin and Kelsey knew each other and did not name any motive for the crime. John Baza, a retired detective from the New York Police Department Special Unit, commented, "This is a clear case of stalking. He parked in the same lot, knew where she would be, followed her into the store, and then forced her into her own car." When we discuss this situation, it is important to note that there is a clear intent behind the actions. We should also be grateful for the presence of surveillance cameras at Target. Many stores are equipped with quality security cameras. This is certainly a positive aspect. However, the consequences of this tragedy are horrific for the young woman who lost her life. As sad as it is, there is another young woman whose family still does not know what happened to her. At least Kelsey's family has some comfort in knowing what happened to their daughter. So what are they doing now? Yesterday, in this program, we received information for the first time about the pings from the mobile phone, which are believed to have helped the police determine the area where her body was found. What actions are currently being taken in the investigation? At this moment, investigators are waiting for the coroner's report. The medical examiner will be looking for evidence, including any traces under the nails, bodily fluids such as semen and hair. Every time a crime occurs, it is crucial to gather all possible evidence. The police will also certainly check Kelsey's vehicle for any traces. This could include hair, fibers, and other materials. I also believe they will pay attention to the suspect's vehicle, as it could be critically important. There may be evidence that he stalked other women. I want to emphasize that this does not mean they were acquainted, as many stalkers observe their victims from a distance. He probably knew more about her life than she knew about him. This is one of the most frightening parts of this story. John Baza, a former detective from the New York Police Department Special Unit, thank you. It has been about 3 days, and Edwin remained at home, living a normal life. He was engaged in routine activities such as mowing the lawn and doing household chores. But he was hiding a dark secret that was soon to be uncovered. So, on June 5, 2007, as I mentioned earlier, information came to the police. This could have happened on June 6th as well. The dates here are a bit confusing. This information was provided by Edwin's neighbors, Cameron and Debbie. After the police released the footage from the Target store, Cameron and Debbie happened to be watching the news and noticed it. At first, Cameron joked with Debbie when they saw the resemblance between the man in the video and their neighbor, Edwin. They did not take it seriously until the police showed additional footage featuring a dark blue Chevrolet pickup that matched Edwin's vehicle. When they saw this, their stomachs dropped as they realized that Edwin might be involved in the crime. On June 6, 2007, the police arrested Edwin Hall at his home sometime between 6 and 8 o'clock in the evening. When they arrived, they found him packing his pickup and preparing to leave town with his wife and child. This could have been a vacation, but more likely, it was an attempt to flee. A significant amount of time passed, and after a lengthy trial against Edwin, evidence began to emerge from all sides. Witnesses reported seeing Edwin emerge from the woods near the location where Kelsey's body was found. He came out with a duffel bag and appeared to be in a hurry. The evidence found included Edwin's fingerprints on Kelsey's steering wheel as well as on the driver's seatbelt latch. There were also several other important pieces of evidence that confirmed his involvement in the crime. On July 23, 2008, Edwin entered into a plea agreement to avoid the death penalty, pleading guilty to murder, which resulted in a conviction for involuntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Initially, he faced additional charges due to his infidelity to his wife, who was a minor. When it became known that Edwin had been unfaithful to his wife, it led to further charges. He was 24 years old when he was arrested, and he turned out to be nothing but a scumbag. In 2008, when he turned 27, he was already approaching 28 years old, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. Although Edwin's actions were simply despicable, and he deserves no remorse, his behavior is repugnant. I feel anxious for the women in my life who walk alone. It is hard for me to imagine how they feel knowing that there are people willing to harm them. It is simply disgusting. On April 17, 2009, the governor of Kansas, Mar Parkinson, signed the Kelsey Smith Act. This law requires mobile carriers to provide law enforcement with location information for emergency calls that may threaten life or health without the need for a warrant or subpoena. This law also grants providers legal immunity for good faith compliance. As of 2025, more than 30 states have adopted the Kelsey Smith Act, and I hope that in the future it will cover the entire country, as it was introduced into legislation in 2021 by Congressman Jake LaTurner. Rest in peace, Kelsey Ann Smith, a bright and charming young woman who had her whole life ahead of her. She was simply planning to have a nice evening with her boyfriend, and unfortunately, because she became a target, an evil demon set its sights on her and took her life. She should be remembered for the good she did in her life, and I hope her family is doing well, as they seem to be kind-hearted people with a great mission. The true tragedy that befell Kelsey Ann Smith serves as a horrifying reminder of how important it is to be cautious in everyday life. Kelsey, a young woman who had her whole life ahead of her, became a victim of a random attack when she went to the Target store to buy a gift for her boyfriend. This story highlights that even in ordinary situations, such as shopping, dangers can arise that we cannot foresee. The reasons behind a crime that happened to Kelsey can vary. A lack of caution, underestimating potential threats, and, unfortunately, the presence of individuals with criminal intentions can lead to tragic outcomes. Edwin Hall, who committed this crime, was unknown to Kelsey, but that did not stop him from stalking her and committing violence. This underscores the importance of being aware of one's surroundings and the potential threats that may exist around us. To avoid similar situations, it is important to follow a few simple yet effective tips. 1. Be aware of your surroundings. Always pay attention to the people around you, especially if you feel someone is watching you. If you feel uncomfortable, try to change your route or enter a crowded place. 2. Do not ignore your instincts. If you have a sense of danger, trust your instincts. It is better to take precautions than to regret not paying attention to your feelings later. 3. Communicate with loved ones. Inform friends or family about your plans, especially if you're going somewhere alone. This can be helpful in case you need assistance. 4. Utilize technology. Modern technology can be your ally. Use safety apps that allow you to share your location with loved ones or call for help if needed. 5. Avoid dangerous situations. If you know certain places or situations may be unsafe, try to avoid them. This may include walking in the dark or visiting unfamiliar areas. 6. Know how to act in dangerous situations. Familiarize yourself with the basics of self-defense and know how to react in case of an attack. This may include being able to respond quickly and seek help. 7. Stay in touch with the police. If you witness suspicious behavior, do not hesitate to contact law enforcement. Your vigilance could save a life. This tragedy reminds us of the importance of caution and awareness in everyday life. Kelsey Ann Smith was a vibrant individual who left a mark on the hearts of many. Her story has become a catalyst for legislative changes aimed at protecting others from similar crimes. Thank you for watching Detective Brooks' channel. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and give a thumbs up. Your support and feedback are very important to us, and we strive to continue uncovering important stories that can help save lives. Stay safe, take care of yourself and your loved ones.